I'd like to welcome all of our members here today and all of you that I haven't had the opportunity to meet before. I see Ellen, I see Andrea. Hi guys, how are you? It's good to see you. These are ladies that we paint along with on a regular basis. Today I am going to be demonstrating NARA shapes. And these are really interesting. So I got a set of NARA shapes, and I've got a couple things. I put them on this little black NARA circle so you could see them. We're going to be working on a butterfly. We have a crescent moon. There is a sunflower and a maple leaf. And so we're going to explore these today and play around with them. The first one I'm going to actually try out with is going to be the Crescent Moon. We're just going to kind of get started with that. And I am using today Ranger inks. And you can use any brand of alcohol ink. I just happen to have that next to my desk. And so that's what I pulled out for this project today. I have a weld palette that I'll use to put some in because I'm actually going to paint on these. And I have a spritzer, I have a Sharpie, I have a small container of alcohol ink. I'm sorry, not alcohol ink, isopropyl alcohol. And let's see what else I pulled aside. I have a brush, just a regular round number 4 brush that I'll use. And the first thing that I want to do is put a little bit of alcohol ink into my weld palette. And I apologize if you're asking questions and stuff while I'm demonstrating. It's not easy for me to look at the comments and stuff, so I'll come back periodically and look through the comments and see if there are any questions. So this first one is the Crescent Moon. I'm actually going to move the NARA circle out of the way. And I'm going to just make a crescent moon with some of dandelion. So I just put a little bit of dandelion into my container here. Let's see. I like to work with a little paper towel on the side to clean off my brush as I need to. And so I'm just going to dip that in. And I'm actually going to go around the outside first with it. Now, the NARA shapes you might be thinking, oh, I can just cut my NARA paper into shapes and use it. Well, sure, you can do that, but that's not really what this is. What this is it's a very thick, it's more sturdy. I envision using these in collage projects or to build out 3D artworks, like in a shadow box and that sort of thing. So I can paint on the front surface, and then I can attach it either with double-sided sticky tape, or I use these raised dots that you see in card making a lot. You can use those as well. But what I'm doing here is I'm just actually painting with the ink, and I'm putting it darker around the edges, and I'm just kind of blending it towards the middle. And as I tap into this, it will lighten and blend accordingly. So, oops. And I do that all the time too. No worries. So this is really nice. Hopefully there's not too much of a glare on it. I just refilled my container with some more isopropyl alcohol. And I did not wear my gloves today, but you really should wear gloves to protect your hands from, getting messy from the ink, but also to protect you from the toxicity of the isopropyl alcohol. So anyway, we've got this, and there, I think that was really simple, just a simple coloring of the moon. And then what I would do is I would take that and attach it to another piece, another background that I'd created, or maybe even like the NARA black. It really looks nice against that. So attach that with double-sided sticky tape, or I could also use some of those glue dots that are raised to give it some dimension so it actually sits out on it. All right, so let's see who's here. So we got a few people watching us. Are there any questions? If you have questions along the way, go ahead and ask. And again, I will go back in and answer. So I see a lot of waves. Hi, everyone. If you're just joining me, my name's Laurie Trumpet Williams. I am the administrator over at the Alcohol Ink Art Community and the Society. So I may know a lot of you that way, but if not, and I haven't met you before, it's nice to meet you. I've been working with alcohol ink for almost 10 years now. And a lot of what I do tends to be representational or, painting, more realistic type art. But I certainly do like to play sometimes when I just want to sit down and do some abstract work. I do that as well with alcohol ink. I'd like to thank NARA for inviting me here today to meet you guys and to demonstrate their shapes. I love NARA's products. I love their papers. I think it's one of the best products, if not the best product for working with alcohol ink out there, mostly because, like I said, I do a lot of representational painting and I'm able to lift to white. And that's really important when you need to add accents and depth in your paintings. And so the NARA substrates allow me to do that. So I really like the NARA products. Today, believe it or not, is my first try on the shapes. And I love them. Again, they're very thick. They're very sturdy. They're almost like plastic-like. So it's not like a piece of NARA paper. So like if you see a nice piece of NARA paper, you can see it's a little thinner. Just as paper would be. This is more of a sturdy thing. You could probably bend these and get different shapes and stuff out of them. Great for collage projects and adding depth to your artwork. So a lot of fun. So we're going to go through a couple more. So we just did our Crescent Moon. So I started with that. And the next thing I think I want to do is the sunflower. So I'm going to pull this out. So there's two sides to the shapes that you can work on. You see the shiny side, and then there's a back side that is more of a matte side. You want to work on the shiny side. That's the side that we're gonna work with. And you can also see that there's it's left to your imagination a bit, because you can actually paint whatever scene you want within the shape. So the first thing that I'm going to do on this is I actually already have my yellow in the palette. I'm going to put a little bit more. I'm using dandelion. You can certainly use whatever colors you want. And I'm pouring a little dandelion into my palette. And I'm going to use my brush. And I'm going to paint the whole thing yellow. So I'm just going to start just applying yellow onto this. And then we'll start defining the petals for the flower in the center in just a second. I'm not going to worry too much about the center because we're going to actually come back in with the center and paint that a different color. So I'm just getting some coverage on here, and then I'll come in and define the petals a little bit more. So it already looks pretty cool. The other thing is, because it's thick, you may want to go around the sides and just sort of paint the sides so that you have a wrap there. Because if someone's looking at it at an angle, they're going to see those white sides. And so you want to cover those up too. Okay. So with the NARA paper, you can actually go in and lift out. And so you can see that I'm going to just go around this and just with a brush that's damp with alcohol and just sort of define some of these petals by just giving it some strokes. You see, can you see that? I'm going to make sure there's no glare on that. You can see where I'm just going to go around with this and add in those strokes. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. I'm just going through and I'm working from the center out. And let me see if I can adjust that. There we go. Get rid of that glare for you. Is that better? I think that's a little better. Okay. So I just have a damp brush, damp with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. I tap it off on my paper towel always, because if I go directly from the container on and a super wet brush, then everything's going to spread on me, and I want to have a little more control than that. So I'm just going to go through and continue defining my petals on this. So easy and fun. Okay, so I have some of the petals defined. So being more of kind of like a realistic painter, I kind of want to put a little more depth in there by going in with a little bit darker color. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to mix together a couple of colors to create like a brown. So I'm going to take, I have ember here, so I'm going to put a drop or two of ember into my palette, and then I'm going to take a drop or two of my glacier, which is a blue. So when you mix orange and blue, you get a brown. And it's not perfect, but it's close enough to do what I want to do here. And I'm going to test it first to make sure it's the right kind of color that I want it to be. Because I don't want much, I just want a little bit. And yeah, that's good. So I don't want much on my brush. I'm going to tap that off. I'm just going to come in here a little bit and just add some in just to give my petals a little more depth, and I'll blend those in a second. Clean my brush. And then I just kind of come in and just kind of like blend that together. Just adding a little bit more realism to it. That's kind of just what I do. It's not necessarily something that you have to do. I mean, because this would look just fine without that, but I'm just blending that around my petals. Okay, and I'll probably come back and work with that a little bit, but I want to start the center. The center of sunflowers are usually are a really big color, and they're kind of a brown orange color. So I'm just going to take this brown that I mixed up and just start putting it into the center. And it's usually a pretty large center, and I want it to be kind of inky. So I put that in. So how are we looking here? We're looking like a sunflower. And the center of a sunflower has a lot of detail in it. And the way I get that, there's a couple of ways you can achieve that. One is I sometimes use a piece of felt and we'll put a little bit of alcohol on the felt and just tap it around. But for this one, I'm just going to take my brush and just tap. And I do it like a million little taps in here just to give it texture. And you can go around the edges too with it to give it a little bit of a bloom. So I'll start out doing that. Just go all the way around the edges of my center to blend it into the sunflower. My brush dried out a little bit, so I just dipped it in to get a little bit of dampness to the brush so I can continue blooming my outer edges here. And I'm going to come in with a little bit more of the mixture, the brown that I made. And just tap in, we just want a lot of texture in there. The more taps you do, the more texture you're going to get. And I'm tapping in with a brush that has more ink on it. You could tap in with a brush that's damp with alcohol as well, depending on whether or not you want to make it darker or lighter. So darker, obviously, we put the ink on it, tap in some more dark color. If you wanted to lighten up areas, you would tap in with a damp brush with alcohol, or blending solution works as well. I think you get the idea here. I mean, I could sit for, hours futzing with it and playing around with it, but I want to be able to show you everything that I want to show you today. So I'm going to move on a little bit here. The last thing is we have a stem here. So the stem could be the brown color. And then we have a couple of leaves. It looks like there's a leaf that goes out here, and then there's a leaf that comes over here. And I'm making the stem brown, but I'm actually going to come in with a little bit of green. And I happen to have mojito here. So I'm going to just tap that in here. And I like it to look inky, so I love the look you get when you just sort of tap it in. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of that green here to the stem, and then over here to the side, so we have the leaf that's coming off to the side. And then around the edges to finish it off. So you get the idea here. I'm going to come back in with a little bit of brown there. So there's what the sunflower looks like. I'll pull over my NARA around so you can see it on there. So how cute would that be in a light box with a background like that? So let me see if my little lights here are putting a really nice reflection on there for you. So I'm trying to adjust them so that you can see. So anyway, there's my little sunflower. Isn't that cute? So fun. All right. What next? So let me check and see if there are any questions in the group. So we've created our sunflower, and we have a moon, and you can see those really well there. Okay. We have some more fun. We have more shapes. Yay, NARA. So NARA, let us know what shapes are coming next. These are fun, and I can just, see all kinds of projects with these. And these are available on the NARA website. So if you go to NARA Paper or narasyntheticpaper.com, you can order these. So let me see if there are any questions. What material? Okay, so the material that we are using is These are NARA shapes. So it's from NARA paper. And it's not like the regular like NARA paper that you purchase, like that's, you know, in pages like that come in sheets like this. It is very thick and it's very sturdy and can be used in projects like adding on collage. You can, or create cards. That would be a great way to use it. And there's a lot of different uses for it. Again, there's two sides. There's like a matte side and a shiny side. You work on the shiny side, and NARA makes these available in different shades. The next one we're going to do is a leaf. So I'm saving the butterfly to last, but we're going to do the leaf next. So let's get started on that. So the leaf, again, I'm going to use yellow, and then I'm going to also use red in that. And I'm using Ranger inks this time, just because that's what I have at my desk. You can use any alcohol ink, would work fine. Crimson and dandelion are what I'm going to use for the leaf. So I'm going to make a fall colored leaf. Let's see. Any other questions first before I go forward? Okay. I apologize if I missed your questions, but I will try to get them at the end. All right, so the next thing we're going to do here is a leaf. And we're working on the shiny side of the leaf. I am going to start out this time again, just like I did with the sunflower. This time I'm going to start off with the dandelion, which is a yellow alcohol ink. And I'm just going to go around the edges here of my leaf. I am not worried about how it looks. The inkier, the better for this one. So I'm going to go all around the edges of my leaf with this dandelion color. Again, any alcohol ink color would work just fine. You can decide what color you want your leaf to be and design it any way you want, but this material is a dream to work on. It will lift, the inks pull and blend very nicely on it. And I like to go around, I'm going around the edges with my color just to coat the edges, because if I do use this in a collage project, I don't want the edges to be showing white. I want it to look, you know, wrapped around the edges. Again, these are not just like taking, you might be thinking, oh, I'll just take my NARA paper and cut it on the Cricut. No, that's not what this is. This is, I've not seen this anywhere else. It's a nice, thick, sturdy shape. And it's really interesting. So now I'm going to, in the center, I am going to add my crimson, which is the red. It's going to be really bright in the center. And then I'll blend the two around the edges. So I'm just going to add that here in the center. The inkier, the better. I'm going to go ahead and add this down here like this. And then I'm going to take my brush and make it damp with the alcohol. And then I'm just tap around these edges where the red meets the yellow and kind of drive it out a little bit. Still not worrying too much about, you know, how it looks at this point. You'll see why in a minute. I just want to blend some of that together so the yellow and the red mix together, some orange, so we get a nice looking fall color going on here. And I'm actually going to take a little bit, that red is overpowering a bit, not a problem. I'm going to take a little bit more of my dandelion in the palette and go back around the edges and blend that in a little bit. Let me just clean my brush a little bit here. I contaminated it. I'm going to add this back in. There we go. That's helping me blend the two together. And I want it to remain pretty inky. And all I'm doing is just tapping this brush around to blend it. I'm changing the direction a little bit to make it look a little more natural. And I also don't want to go all the way to the edge with the reds because I want that glow around the edges with the yellow. And you see I'm always cleaning off my brush on this on the paper towel. Okay. Sort of liking the way that's looking. It's kind of inky and yummy. I love ink. I describe it as yummy a lot of the time. Let's take a little bit of this brown around the edges just to give it a little depth there. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is actually pull out a marker. And it could be, any marker. And you could use a brush with some brown paint on it. But I am using a brown marker. This is just, this one's a Firefly. I think I got this one at Tuesday mornings here in the States. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to run this up here because I want to create the veins for my leaf. This is a little extra. You don't have to do this. Obviously, you can see that it looks pretty cool even though I didn't do this. But I want to demonstrate it anyway, that I can do this and add detail to these little things. The shapes are pretty cool, but you can use them, use your imagination to make them even more extra. There we go. So there's our leaf. I'll show you where we are so far on the black background. Isn't that looking cool? Yeah, I like that. All right, before I do the little final step, I want to see if there's any questions. Okay, so the plantographer asked me if what type of colors I'm using. For this demonstration, I'm using the Tim Holtz Ranger alcohol inks. You could use any alcohol ink for this purpose, but you can just see how this is where we are so far. So that looks pretty cool. I think I'm actually happy that I was gonna do a spritz of alcohol in it to make it look like there was rain falling on it, but I just think it turned out so cool. I don't want to touch it, so I'm not gonna. I'm gonna let that be. But isn't that pretty? Can you see having a few of those and creating a nice collage or a 3D kind of diorama artwork from that? I just think that's pretty neat. I love the leaves and the time of the year. It's just perfect for that. Let's see, any other questions? I am still looking. Is there a sticker on the back? No. There is not a sticker on the back, but what you could use is double-sided sticky tape, craft double-sided sticky tape. Tape it to the back and attach it to whatever you want to attach it to, or those dimensional dots that you get when you create cards. They have a little bit of a cushion to them, for lack of a better description. But they're like little sticky dots. You could stick those on top, and then it would stand up on top of a background. And then what would be cool is to take one of these NARA circles, these black NARA circles, and use a little bit of snow cap and a contrasting color and create some sort of splash in the background and then put it on top. That could also look pretty cool. So can one use water? What's the advantage of diluting with alcohol? Alcohol ink does not react the same way with water. So, I guess you could use watercolors on the NARA paper, but really these are designed to use with alcohol ink, and the alcohol ink is reactivated by a solvent such as isopropyl alcohol. You could use grain alcohol. There are blending solutions that you can use as well. But because it's alcohol ink, water would not make it move and react the same way. So you would not get the same effect with that. Okay, so then I'm going to move on to the last one that we're going to do today, and that is the butterfly. And the butterfly shape, let me set this aside, looks like this. Again, there's two sides, the matte side and the shiny side. We're going to work on the shiny side. And I'm going to set my leaf aside here, and then I'm going to move my butterfly to the center, and we'll paint the butterfly. You're certainly welcome. Okay. So now we're going to paint the butterfly. Let's use some different colors. I think that I want to make the butterfly pink and blue. So I have pulled out some Gumball, which is another Tim Holtz Ranger color. Again, you could use any brand of alcohol ink, and I do use a bunch of different brands. I have a lot of them that I love. NARA has alcohol inks, so you could use the NARA alcohol inks as well. But this one I'm going to use Gumball, and I'm going to have Glacier. So let's do the two of these. You know what, before I move any further, I'm going to actually clean out my container of alcohol and put fresh in there so that I don't, since I'm using a totally different color scheme for this one, I don't want to contaminate it. So, cleaned out my isopropyl alcohol and put a little bit more in. There we go. And I'm going to make sure my brush is clean. And see how it wasn't clean? I'm not going to worry too much about that. Okay, here we go. So let's see. I am going to just sort of dab on some of this Gumball, which is a nice pink color. And I'm going to do that towards the top, I think. And then, let's see. I'm going to use this Glacier towards the bottom. And then we'll blend up. I could drop the ink. You know what? I'll demonstrate that. I'll actually drop the ink onto the surface and have it blend and rock it back and forth to blend it. That's a different technique that some of you may not have seen. So I have my 2 bottles of alcohol ink. These are larger bottles. They usually come in smaller bottles than this. But here we go. So I'm just dropping the ink on here. Trying to do it too so you guys can see what I'm doing on the camera. All right, there we go. It's gonna have a little extra there, but by keeping like a flow, it's gonna have a nice smooth, because it's a shape, I have to kind of take my brush and help it along a little bit. But where the Gumball meets the Glacier, we get a purple, which is really pretty. And I'm helping it along with my brush a little bit as well. Do you see how that ink is reacting when I have alcohol on my brush? Very pretty. So I'm actually going to take off some of that excess here so it's not pulled up on the edges. So I just run my brush over it to do that, and it just fills in the spots for me. It does all the work for me. That's one of the things I love about alcohol ink, is it does a lot of the work for us, and we can just learn to go with the flow. So while I'm working this a little bit, I would like to invite you guys all to join us over at the Alcohol Ink Art community. We have a group on Facebook. We also have a website. So if you go to alcoholink.community, We have a free membership, and we have a paid membership for people who really want to kind of take their alcohol ink work to the next level, and that we call the society. And in the society, we do live paint-alongs every month. We do new presentations every month, and you get there's a lifetime opportunity to join, and then there's an annual. And you get access to everything. And at this point, we have hundreds of exclusive demos and presentations that you won't see anywhere else. There's a lot of other advantages and stuff, but just go check it out. But at a minimum, definitely check us out at the Alcohol Ink Art Community on Facebook. And then if you're interested in following me personally, here I am, Laurie Trumpet, on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on YouTube, so you can go follow me there in any of those places. So, okay, so here we are with my butterfly so far. Looks pretty cool, huh? I'll make sure there's no glare on that. Can you guys see that okay? It's a little dark, I think, but I think you get it. Yeah. So I just love the way the inks look together and the way they pull on these NARA shades. So let me see real quick before I take the next step, and I'm letting this dry a little bit, see if there are any questions. So let's see. Sally Gill says, beautiful, thank you. Inky Spirit says, I did not see the leaf. Did you cut the leaf on NARA paper? No, I didn't cut it. NARA cut it. And it's not NARA paper. It's like NARA paper. It's by NARA, but it is a thicker shape surface, and you buy the shapes and just paint the shapes. So this was the leaf that I created with NARA shapes. And I'm sure that we will share the link to where you can go and order these if you want them, or to check them out and see what shapes are available. This one is the butterfly, and it's not the same thickness as regular NARA paper. It is very thick, it's very sturdy, it's perfect to use in projects. So let's see. So I'm getting some questions about how do you seal this. So I have, on the Alcohol Ink Art Community, I have a video on how to seal alcohol ink. And basically, regardless of what surface you're working on, most surfaces, the regimen you want to use, and I'll explain it, because a lot of times there's a lot of confusion around sealing alcohol ink. First off, alcohol inks are not light fast, which means that if you put them in direct sunlight, some of the colors will fade. I mean, all mediums fade, but alcohol inks are very volatile. And so you have to do some sealing and protecting them to preserve the life of alcohol ink work. The first thing that we have to do is we have to use a varnish that will not move the inks. So here in the United States, we usually recommend KMR varnish. And there's actually a couple of different varnishes that you may not be able to get if you're outside the United States. I can put a link in the comments afterwards, but when I post these pictures, but there are some other varnishes. Those varnishes fix the inks in place, which means that they don't have solvents in them that will move the inks and mess up your artwork. Very important. And there's a lot of varnishes out there that if you try to use and you spray directly onto alcohol ink, you're going to get a surprise, because the inks are going to move and your entire artwork is going to look totally different. So after you do 2 or 3 light coats of KMR varnish, I come back with some UV spray, and I do 2 or 3 coats of UV spray. And the UV spray is to help the inks not fade. And then after that, you have the option of adding a layer if you want some really shiny coats. I use another Krylon product, which is triple thick, which is a triple thick varnish glaze that really makes things pop. Sometimes I use that 3rd layer and sometimes I don't. That's optional. But at a minimum, I recommend using the first layer KMR and then some UV protection. There are some sealers out there that will give you both the fixing and the UV in one step. I also have those outlined on the website, and we'll provide a link for that. But that's always a really good question we always get is, how do you seal this? And that's definitely something that you want to. So Jingles Barber says, the instructors of the Alcohol Inc. Art Community and Society, everyone, thanks for being so approachable and helpful. Oh yeah, our pleasure for sure. And we do have a whole team over there. So when you are a member over at the community and the society, you have access. Currently we have 15 active contributors. And we're always available to answer questions. We're always doing videos and demonstrations and teaching. And most of us have been doing Alcohol Inks for almost 10 years. So that's really when Alcohol Inks started taking over. So thank you. Thank you for that, Jingles. Okay. All right. So now what I did with this butterfly was I just added some ink to it. Now I'm going to take a Sharpie and add some detail to it. And you know, butterflies, they have a lot of detail to them. And the first thing is I'm going to take a Sharpie. You could take a brush and take some black alcohol ink if you want, but I'm going to take my Sharpie and just color the body of the butterfly here. Here we go. Color his little antennas. So the other thing that you might not realize that you can do with these shapes is you can also use markers. So if you have a good set of alcohol ink markers, they work great too. And then you can, you know, add detail and manipulate them with a brush and ink as well. So this is, I'm going around all the edges of this. This is so cute. I love this little butterfly. And then I'm going to go around all of the edges with my black Sharpie. And I know you want to make sure you have a nice juicy Sharpie. And I'm just going to kind of outline the outside edges here. And again, I'm going extra. You don't have to take this extra step, but I always end up doing that. My ink is still a little wet because I put it on sort of thick on this one. That's okay. Oh my gosh, I always get into it, you know, and then I notice that I'm like on live and I'm just painting and I'm not talking. So people are probably like, well, what's going on? Is there any sound? Sorry about that. I'm concentrating really hard here. Oh, it's looking so cute. And all I'm doing here is outlining the edges. So let's just take a quick look at what our butterfly looks like next to, there we go. So, I mean, putting on a black background, I could have used a brighter color. So let me see if I have a piece of white NARA. Here we go. There you go. So you can see a little bit better what that looks like. So I can go in and add my veins here. But that's a little more detailed probably than we need to get today. So let me just take another paper towel and put it underneath it so you can see what the final result was there. All right. The plantographer says she learned something new today. We'll definitely try this. Great. Well, I hope you do. If you do, tag me, Laurie Trumpet, so that I can see it. I'd really love to see what you guys create. And I always love seeing the art everyone does. So has NARA said how often the new shapes? No, that's a good question. I'll have to let NARA, the guys over at NARA, answer that for you. But that's a really good question because these are so fun. I could just see all kinds of uses for that. You know, holiday ornaments would be a good one, NARA, to do with a little hole punched in them that people can paint and hang on their trees. So that would be a good one. I can think of all kinds of ideas, but these are so fun. So let's just take a quick look again at what we created today. So we did a butterfly, and I just love the inky colors of that butterfly. It doesn't show up as good on the black as it does on the white background, but some of these other things I did show up really well on the black. So I am going to pull that back out, and we'll look at them. So here's our leaf. Just look at that. I love the inkiness of that leaf. And here's our sunflower and our crescent moon. Okay, so let me just do one more look to see if there are any questions. So yes to ornaments. See, I could see a lot of people loving because the holidays come and like everyone loves ornaments, and just think of all the really cool things you could paint on an ornament, and then it has a little hole in it that you can just hang. You could paint both sides. That would be great. Let's see. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me today. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully NARA will invite me back again sometime. I love painting live and corresponding with everyone. Hey Beth, so Ink Art by Beth, everybody go to follow Ink Art by Beth, and I saw Andrea Patton, A Patton Fine Art. They're two of our contributors over at the Alcohol Ink Art community, so follow them here as well on Instagram. Thank you guys. That's a wrap. NARA Paper, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. Everyone have a good day.